Hello and welcome to coverage of Week 9 of the Louisville Cube League Season 4. Today we're going to be checking out a draft of a new cube, this one created by Prose, the currently not officially named Merfolk cube. The first thing I want to point out about this cube is that this is a desert cube draft, meaning that unlike a normal draft, there is no basic land station available after the draft. Instead, you draft more cards. Normally, this would be a draft of 3 packs of 18 cards. But this cube is currently still in its early design phase, so we did 1 pack of 19 and 2 packs of 18 instead, since there's a few extra cards in the cube and we wanted to make sure they all get drafted. With there being no basic land station, you have to draft all the lands that are going to go into your deck, including basics that are included in the list. Due to being based around a primarily blue creature type, this cube is mostly blue, though all 5 colors are represented both in monocolored cards and gold cards. All of the lands in the cube that actually produce colored mana make at least blue mana, with the exception of the few non-island basic lands that are present in the list. If you want to see the entire list, the Cube Cobra link is in the description below and goes into a lot more detail on the contents and themes. But just for a quick overview of the biggest themes that you may see today, we're looking at Islands Matter, which applies both for cards that care about how many islands you control and for Island Walk, which is a theme fairly prevalent throughout the Merfolk tribe. +1/+1 counters, wizards, enchantments matter, and spells matter cards. I won't bore you too much more with the details that you'll see during the draft in the game, so let's just jump right into it. Today we'll be joining Bryan's draft along with the rest of the commentary crew.
Welcome to another Cube Draft. I'm Joey.
I'm Bryan.
And I'm Prose.
And looking at this first pack here of the Merfolk Cube, harder to recognize some cards, but Vedalken Shackles seems like an easy slam.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Vedalken Shackles, which I immediately forgot to show to the camera. No, Vedalken Shackles feels like a snap pack one, pick one in most packs, in my opinion.
As you look at that pathway there, I think that it's definitely possible to build a mana base that doesn't have a ton of islands, or at least has a fair number of non-island lands in this cube. There are some dual lands that have land types, but most of them don't.
Yeah, I think that if you're pack one, pick one, like if you're snapping off of Vedalken Shackles first pick, your plan is make sure I get to the end of this draft with, a high island count.
For sure. But card at the front of this pack, Thriving Isle, is one that I think is really powerful in the cube to take early. So, it would be a sign to me that Vedalken Shackles, if it's really powerful in pack one, pick one. Pack 3, pick one if you're trying to avoid islands, to avoid Island Walk, less powerful.
Yeah, I mean, there's two kind of dueling sub-themes in this cube. Obviously, with Merfolk, you get a lot of Island Walk, which is usually bad for you if you are the person with islands. But on the other hand, there's cards like this Engulf the Shore that we're looking at here that care a lot about how many islands you do have. So,
especially already having Shackles, that makes sense.
Right, yeah. There.
However, Engulf the Shore and, Vedalken Shackles, classic non-bow, actually. You shackles your opponent's creature and then cast Engulf the Shores and return it to their hand.
I think they work well together if you're in an overtly controlling deck. This split card is one I would like for that reason, being able to just destroy a attacking or blocking creature and then later in the game cash it in as a draw 2 for its aftermath.
The aftermath.
For sure. Is that 4 mana for both of those? 3 and a white, 3 and a blue?
I think it's 3 mana for each of them. 2 and a white, 2 and a blue.
Okay.
I could be mistaken. But I also like taking a land here, especially, again, not all the lands have dual types, and you've already taken 2 lands that are islands, so.
Yeah, so you get a 2-color land, also with the type.
Yeah, I like these tapped duels. I didn't know the entirety of the mana base. I originally had thought that there were revised duels in this cube, so I was definitely thinking that there was going to be a Tundra coming my way at some point, and that is not the case.
Was that a Lord of Atlantis? I didn't.
Yeah,
I think it's got a different art than I'm used to.
That is the newest Lord of Atlantis art, which that is of the lords to find in this position, maybe the worst one, given that That is the one with the parallel island walk effect.
Right, and we
Yeah.
talked about how we want all the islands, so
Yeah, that was what I was thinking. It seems really good.
yeah, despite its overt power, it's maybe not the best pick.
Yeah, so right now I'm
here.
looking at Spell Snare, tons of Merfolks that are 2-drops.
Yeah, Sea Singer also quite good.
And seeing how much of the cube is artifact themed, I feel like this Thieving Skydiver's pretty good at having a different form of evasion than other Merfolk because it has flying, and it threatening to steal an artifact from probably most players, and since there's plenty of equipment threatening the free equip on its ability too.
Yeah, but I decided to take a basic island instead, which, I drafted 2 cards that say island on them, and then I saw a card that said island on it, so I figured I might as well take a basic island.
Yeah, I think taking lands like in any desert cube, especially when you care about a particular kind of land, feels pretty important. Since you already have one that produces white, maybe being on the lookout for powerful white spells, but not really seeing much of those.
This is probably the deck too. I mean, assuming we stay on this route, that it's the most important because while there are a lot of lands in the cube, the majority of them are not land typed. So you do have to be cognizant of kind of focusing on getting those typed lands.
As we'll see here with
Basically, as
this
soon as you
obvious
can.
fumble, this obvious fumble of drafting a Frost Marsh as if it is an Icy Tunnel. Which was just totally wrong. There was a Flooded Strand in this pack, which I think is crazy because of how awesome fetch lands are and this like a lot of tap lands looking mana base sort of thing.
Right. To me, it's maybe a sign of people trying to avoid getting island type lands.
Third or fourth pick, I had first picked a gold card, and third or fourth pick, the fetch land for the color combination came across, and I also was super excited and took it. And then 2 or 3 picks later, I was sitting here and I was like, I really need to make sure that I actually have enough lands for this.
Yeah, I know
To be
we
worth
passed
it,
by. I just took another land. It's Watery Grave,
the
makes my
Watery
Flooded
Grave,
Strand
yeah.
into untapped.
Right.
Currently blue, black. That's it. I don't have an untapped white source yet.
Right. But still getting tapped. Well, tapped white, and if you're able to pick up a plains at any point. So, seems like a pretty good start into Esper. I think there's a lot of these decent one drops. You were just reading Cozy's Trickster there, that because there's so much that just rewards you for having Merfolk, while it's not the most impressive of one drops, it is one I'm kind of interested in.
Yeah, I think that might have been a problem I ran into in this cube a lot. Is that I draft vintage cube a lot, so I'm used to like your 1-drops being like these huge, swingy, impactful plays in current contemporary Magic. So like when a 1-drop doesn't read like Ocelot Pride, my eyes kind of glaze over. This Merfolk doesn't do anything. There we go. There's me drafting the Ice Tunnel
There's
to
the
make
Ice
up for the
Tunnel,
fact that I, Frost Marshed on accident.
Yeah, and I mean, this was the first time that any of us had drafted this cube. The list has been posted. I've been working on it, and people have helped. But in terms of like actually drafting it and see what a lot of these cards do, this was certainly
Here's
the
our
first time.
wheel of the first pack, I believe.
Yeah, and I took another island.
We wheeled an island, so success.
Yeah, we're winning. I mean, think about it. At this point, we've got what? 1, 2, we have 7 islands.
Yeah.
So we're doing pretty solid.
Right, and a solid Esper mana base. I couldn't see exactly what that black-blue land was. If it was the Investigate land, I think I would have been kind of interested in that. Obviously, it's not an island, but you already have such a high density of islands.
One thing I do want to point out, as we're starting to see packs wheel with still so many cards in them, so this is normally a 3 packs of 18 draft, being a desert cube. In this instance, the cube was still a little bit too big, so this first pack is actually 19 cards, so a lot of cards to look through each time, so you will see things wheel twice.
I think a card that I didn't pay enough attention to in this pack, as I take Basic Island again, is that there was a High Tide in that pack, and I just did not even give High Tide a moment's notice, which is hilarious because my deck at this point now has 9 islands in it.
Really like Drown in the Lock here. Looks like it was going back and forth between it and Spell Snare. Both good options. Again, in my head, even though you've mostly taken lands, like all the cards you've taken are banger control cards. So if you're able to get into control, it seems like you're getting a little punished here, as you might be one of the. As it doesn't seem like the other players are prioritizing lands as much.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think some people
way.
at the table hadn't drafted desert cubes before, or much limited, because that was a hella land pack also, though.
It's also a bit more important for you than others, I think, to be focusing on lands, because you need the typed lands. You have cards that are worse if you end up with the just leftovers later.
Yeah, it's just in that position, you hope other people are also taking a fair number of lands, and you don't end up with packs like that last one where the majority of the cards still were lands.
Yeah, if I make it to deck building and I have 25 islands in my deck because I have to run 25 lands and I don't have enough playables, that's going to be a pretty bad look. It's going to be a dope Vedalken Shackles, but it's not going to really work.
Well, it just also sucks because you could have maybe taken an island in one of those packs, or like this pack, and not taken an island earlier, but you don't know that at the time because if other people are prioritizing it. So it's a thing that goes back and forth for however the draft's going for every player at the table.
Yeah, I definitely wish I'd gotten to pick that Castle Mantris.
We kind of skipped over the Cyclone Summoner there. Not a Merfolk, but a lot of overlap between Merfolk and Wizards, so felt like a good card to include, and followed up here with Augur of Bolas, who is one of those mentioned Merfolk Wizards.
Yeah, that felt like a really good banger, one and two there, pretty much. Like, oh, my first creature, and then my second creature also fits that type, which is good. Also, Cyclone Summoner, very hard to bounce with Engulf the Shore. Gotta have 7 islands.
No respect for Floros there, although not a wizard, I guess, so...
Yeah, I have no idea what that card does. You could try to quiz me on it right now. That card is baloney.
Yeah. One of the couple uncards in this cube, one of the more reasonable uncards, but it does have a lot of words on it.
Yeah, I read that and I was like, I don't even know what this leads to, what game state this leads to at the table when this result finishes.
So yeah, getting into the second pack here, we got finish off the first pack with Gosta Dirk and Rootwater Shaman. Gosta Dirk, a card that does cost a lot, but being the deck that is full of islands may be nice to have if you can get to the point in the game you can cast it.
For sure. I debated taking Scalding Tarn there, but I felt like it might be a little bit this was the point where I was like, I may have drafted too many lands in the first pack. And while Scalding Tarn would be great, right? An untapped blue-black duel that gets tapped white.
Opt for the removal instead, no shame there. Again, a primarily blue cube, probably has a little bit less of that overall going around.
Yeah, this was the moment where I started to, my brain started to cook a little. I was like, I'm going to take Aether Vial and draft a tempo control or like an aggro control wizards deck where I can just like leave all my mana Vial stuff in. Also, Vial seems busted in this cube. Like, it's another one of those cards that's like colorless, which doesn't really matter as much in this cube, but Aether Vial just seems really good.
Right, and it gets you out of the difficulty that I think this cube can run into of having maybe too many 3s and 4s. If you're getting to vial one in a turn and then also cast one, you get around that, so you can afford to have more density on the middle of the curve than a lot of the other players.
Choke doesn't seem like a card that we want to play, but it also doesn't seem like a card that we ever want to see played against us, so...
That was definitely a hate draft. It's unfortunate having to spend your third pick hate drafting, but nothing in that pack felt as good as knowing I wasn't going to play against Choke.
Yeah, Choke, one of those cards, maybe a bit too powerful on this cube's axis, but I'm of the opinion that the only way to find that out is to find out.
Oh, for sure. Took rapid hybridization there. Seems pretty good. 1 mana removal.
I like the pair of removal spells we've picked up so far. Unfortunate that we can't pick up the Red Room card in this pack.
I saw that earlier.
Name is escaping me. Just one of the
Study.
colors we are not.
Or is it Kitchen? There's so many names.
Which ones they are, yeah.
Which is hilarious because they're really short, tight names.
Also, Drown in the Lock too. So just 3 pretty versatile, powerful removal effects.
Yeah. Get Volsci Tide Turner here. This is when I have like solidly sort of fell into this plan where I'm like, all right, I'm just going to only draft cards that say wizard and lands and removal spells.
It's interesting. Is that a tinker in the pack you're also considering?
Yes.
Because you have the bauble. It just Shackles is so powerful. I think that's a reason why it's even considered here in a mostly non-artifact deck.
This is the 4-mana thing. There we go.
Yes. Also, I think would be good in your deck, but I like this kind of statement of the power of Vedalken Shackles.
For sure, yeah. Vedalken Shackles is busted.
Tinker in this cube, obviously not the power level that people are probably used to seeing it in. It's not going to be getting you, Blightsteel Colossus or Bolas's Citadel, but it will get you things like the Vedalken Shackles. There's like Cloudstone Curio. There's a number of like artifact anthem effects. So more of a toolbox card than a win condition in most cases.
Now I'm reading all the artifacts because I'm like, I have a Tinker now. Obviously, there's going to be some busted artifact that I don't know about when I already have Shackles.
Right, but just increasing the density of that toolbox is always worthwhile. Increases the range of what I would want to have in the deck.
Love Wasteland. You're just drafting a old Legacy Merfolk deck here with your Aether Vial.
Yeah,
and your
Vile Wasteland. Yeah, really, really solid. But yeah, I was torn there on Dress Down because Dress Down is pretty solid. I feel like in this cube, but I don't have a lot of creatures for blocking currently. So
Yeah, but taking Vile when you did implies that you want to start taking creatures. So, and since you already took so many lands, you have the option to take creatures over them in some
for sure.
spaces.
I saw this big guy and I was like, this is the Tinker target, obviously, which is hilariously not true.
I think it's a fine thing to have around if you end up meeting playables. Obviously, again, not a Merfolk. Fits in with there's a lot of +1/+1 counters. There's some equipment. There's some enchantments. So that's kind of the reason that card is in the cube. But tinkering it out, also a very valid plan.
We're back on my second ice tunnel. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a blue-black land. I've Drowned in the Lock.
It's been too many picks. You were starting to get itchy. Had to take some more lands.
Yeah, it had been one whole pick since the last time I had taken a land. It had been a minute since I had taken an island, though.
Yeah,
and that's what really
Fair
matters.
Enough, yeah.
Yeah, now Emery, coincidentally, a wizard. So
yeah, also
pretty
a wizard.
Solid. Emery, Vile, Bauble,
Shackles.
Yeah. At this point, I don't think outside of Drown in the Lock I had really seen many actually decent counter spells at this point. So Ixidor's Will, coincidentally, says the word wizard on it, which is pretty solid.
Have to assume this is a wizard. This is a wizard count.
Yeah. Because little do you know, the giant wizard, also a wizard.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like you're almost entirely wizards at this point. I mean, Gosta Dirk, probably not, but I don't know that guy is starting for you.
Making the deck. Yeah.
And Itzador's Will really only ask you to have 2 wizards. One to counter a spell when your opponent cast it, and one to threaten them to make them waste the rest of their turn, essentially.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, I'm getting it confused with the other counter spell.
No, not the one is that the one that you sack wizards to counter something?
There's too many counter spells that require wizards to say.
For sure.
Here's another
Your Sigil Tracer.
Nice wizard effect. You don't need as many counter spells if you can just copy them, so.
For sure. Yeah. I'm hoping for an A call at this point, I think.
Oh, I don't have high hopes for you, buddy.
Unfortunate. But there's a Mystic Sanctuary here, which coincidentally is an island.
Yeah, in a controlling deck that cares about having a bunch of islands. Perfect.
That card's banned in a format, so it must be good, right?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good standard to hold for most cube cards, is if it's bad enough that you can't play it, then yeah, you got to pick it.
Fetchable card on the theme with your with your goals so far. Obviously, plenty of islands to keep it active. Plenty of instants and sorceries to put on top of your deck. So
Yeah, I'm trying to get an island count right now. I think it's like 11 or 12 at this point.
Yeah, of note, you took the blue-white duel early, but haven't picked up very many white cards. It feels almost like, especially with the crumbling necropolis here, like maybe this seat would have been better in red, but you didn't really even see red until this pack, so maybe the person to your right is taking a bunch of red cards.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the number of like solid gold cards and like there's definitely not a ton of single color cards, I feel like, in the non-blue colors that like I saw and was like, gotta have that. See?
yeah, I mean,
so it's like
outside of green, there's very few monocolored cards in the other colors, and even green is pretty low relative. But
right, there was the split room card that came by earlier in this pack that would have been nice, but besides that,
Mouth of Ronan, they're actually not looking bad. We have a number of snowlands already. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the 5th one, I think. So
plus the fetch land that can fetch.
plus the fetch land, I can get them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a bad thing to end up with. Doesn't make colors, but our mana seems like it's already so good.
This pack seems so strong. Threads of Disloyalty is, I think, really powerful in this cube. So is Harbinger. Like,
yeah, hypothetically, what is Threads of Disloyalty to? Not to potentially spoil what I pick out of this pack.
It's a 3-mana control magic that can only take a creature with CMC 2 or less.
Oh, that seems pretty cool. That sounds like something that I would have wanted.
I mean, like I said, this pack is stacked. Tidebinder, like either of the flash creatures also seems insane.
Right.
For sure.
No shame in this Tidebinder here. I think it's plenty powerful.
Yeah, I had that thought that people often have when they look at cards that like are limited in the way that Threads of Disloyalty is. And I was like, this is just not control magic. Like, this obviously is bad because it's limited in some way.
Again, I've only played the cube a couple times, but just in my head, so many of the like premier Merfolk just happen to be 2-drops.
Yeah.
That
Joey, I don't mean to cut you off here, but something honestly terrible is about to happen right now. Because somehow there are 2 people to my right that looked at the card Swords to Plowshares and passed it. Which
maybe they just didn't recognize that art.
Yeah, that's what it is. It has to be that they didn't recognize the art. Because if they read the card, I just don't know how that card makes it to me third. Anyways, you may continue talking.
No, I mean, I had the same thought earlier with Lord of Atlantis because I didn't recognize that art, but that's because I'm sitting, I believe, 2 seats to your left, drafting no islands, so Lord of Atlantis to me would seem much better, but obviously it does have that draw,
and obviously I've been cutting, like, I did take a couple of white, lands, but like there was a Meticulous Archive and a Hallowed Fountain in pack 1. And just nobody, I guess. That I don't know. I would have just hate drafted.
Those would have gone to your left, right? So.
Oh yeah, I guess fair. You're right.
Yeah. Another white land to follow it up with.
And now I'm like, time to build a better white mana base because I did the math and I'm like, I don't actually have a lot of white lands because I did not take that Hallowed Fountain that I thought I took.
Again, you had no reason. Ooh, like, is that Voidrend in that pack?
Yeah, an Esper card for my Esper deck.
Very nice. Yeah, all the removal seems to be coming into place as you got a couple of the exile removal spells early in pack 2, getting swords into Voidrend. Very nice here. So definitely a nice seat for control. I was ragging on not seeing enough of the white cards, but they're really coming through now.
Yeah.
We got a reader again. That's the mystery booster card, COD. Just a Merfolk Lord, really, in this. Although it does make all lands islands, which I imagine might make it enticing here.
Fair, but I mean, most of my lands are islands at this point.
Yeah, are islands anyways.
I think that card is good if you, like, end up getting a pack 2 Vedalken Shackles and haven't drafted any of those. I took worse Volshy Tide Turner here.
No, but I'm a big fan of taking the Arcanist here just because, again, like the kind of controlling nature.
And it's a wizard.
It's a wizard. And then I got a Talrand, also a wizard. So good.
Talrand's really appealing there. One card that stuck out to me in that pack was the 4-mana counterspell. I think Talrand's a better pick, but...
Is that the pick up 3 islands or pick up 3 lands?
No, it's the 4-mana counterspell that proliferates, and I think people, if they aren't benefiting from the proliferate, would maybe assume that card isn't for them. But expensive counterspells in this cube, I think, are still pretty good, even if you don't get a ton of benefit off the secondary effect. But Talrand was the better pick there.
Just getting a snow-covered island. I want to make sure that I actually had 17 lands for this deck. I didn't do that. I got to pack 3 and only had 14 lands or 15 lands picked, and I was like, oh, that would be pretty funny.
I think that is especially dangerous seeing how pack 1 went, because pack 1 lands were going super late, which implies there are some people at the table that weren't getting their mana base. Harbinger Wheeling seems insane.
Yeah,
I think it was the second or third best card out of that pack the first time we saw it.
Yeah, so it's a wizard. It's a 2-drop for Vile. It's just... That card's so good. I wanted to take that card the first time.
But like you said, and I think I can speak kind of personally to experience here, is it's getting late in the draft, right? You're getting near the end of pack 3, and people are probably realizing that they don't have as many lands as they want. So
that's true. So some premium cards, Bryan's getting the benefit of getting them a little bit later than maybe he normally would.
Right, and I don't remember what the exact card was. Noyan Dar here, another card
Love
that seems pretty nice, yeah. I don't remember exactly what the card is, but I distinctly remember at one point seeing a pack that I got a pack and it had no lands left in it, and I knew I wanted one more land for my deck. This pack had no lands in it. I took a card from it and got the next pack. It had a land in it that I didn't really want and a card that I really wanted in it. But I felt like I had to take the land because what if there's more packs with no lands in it?
Mm-hmm.
So you take the land, and then of course the pack after that had a land that I did want in it.
Wave Thrasher, interestingly late here, but Wizards Retort better for this deck. But I think that card, I'm surprised to see that card this late.
Like I said, I do think there were 2 or 3 people at the table that did not build a mana base until partway through late pack 1, early pack 2 kind of stuff.
For sure. We're seeing that, and I just want to point out the cards that I think
shouldn't be there.
Shouldn't be there, but we are only seeing Wheel because of that.
Ooh, I thought that this card was going to be dope and counter 2 spells. And that is not how people work ever.
This is the one I was mentioning earlier. It still is great as a deterrent. If your opponent casts a spell, you counter it, and then you time walk them. They don't get to do anything with the rest of their turn.
Yeah. So late game, it has a pretty solid potential.
Tuvasa,
once we're into double spelling, that's just a hate draft.
Yeah, it's an interesting card because we have played with custom versions of some of these cards before, and Tuvasa I have great memories of in that format. Forgot that it's actually not that powerful base form.
No, not at all. I was just none of these cards I'm going to play. I guess Tuvasa's the best out of the 5 cards that are left in that pack. Orvar is whatever. I don't think it's... I mean, it is a good card.
This is not the deck for Orvar.
No, not at all.
None of these look very appealing, but...
Second ability of Orvar, basically non-text in this cube, but the first ability obviously belongs in the deck with the heroic creatures.
Yeah.
There is a deck for it, so that's good. It's just nobody drafted that deck, I guess.
Heroic seems pretty scary when it's asking you to put together several pieces and you're putting together your mana base. I think we saw a couple of strategies go undrafted that when people are less experienced with desert cubes are just really intimidating to try to go for.
Yeah, and I think too there's a lot of cards. You brought up Wake Thrasher, and I kind of feel like that's a card that people don't necessarily respect appropriately because they just they've never seen it before, they haven't seen it play. And I think as time goes on and we draft this cube more, cards like that will get more respect. But again, people just have to kind of see them in action to learn that they're more impressive than the text on them makes them seem.
Yeah. This deck didn't get to play Tinker, which is so sad. I think that I maybe should have, but it didn't feel good enough with just like 3 artifacts to play Tinker for Vedalken Shackles.
Yeah, I don't know. This seems like a pretty tight 40. I don't know that there's anything in here really that I would prefer to have Tinker over.
No, I do
Right.
think that whatever the cycling wizard is, the 3-drop.
Yeah, I think Sorcerer is a bit out of place in this deck. I mean, you want that card, and there's definitely a more aggressive wizard bend. It's more red focused than any of these other colors, and was drafted by somebody else at the table actually. But I don't know that this is So maybe Sorcerer is the card that could be cut for Tinker, but
I was thinking of the 5-drop, the 3 Azorius wizard that makes lands into 3/3s. I feel like that would have put a better clock because I think that just that gets the game over with. I think once you land it.
Yeah, that probably fits a little bit better into that slot. But I mean, no shame in trying out the Sorcerer. Worst case, it cycles and.
Yeah, especially having Alran, Noyan Dar, which is, I believe, the card you're talking about, would have been nice to like essentially have 2 copies of that effect.
Yeah, just multiple spell slingers into bodies just seems pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, the Sorcerer does give every creature in your deck evasion, which is nice, but we're not necessarily winning on that sort of axis.
I guess whatever thing I steal from them,
True,
with
yeah,
Vedalken
just,
Shackles,
make sure you steal a wizard.
Sure. It can jump Cyclone Summoner, so it's got that going for it.
True, yeah, true.
If the game gets to that point, though, that's, what I'm going for, I guess.
Well, let's see if we manage that as we get into the first round of matches here. Okay, so getting into the first match here, looks like we might have Daniel on a mulligan.
Yeah, I believe so.
Based on the fact that Bryan seems to have already kept his hand. Lost Jute in this hand. I know it's one that I was talking to people about beforehand, not sure of its power level. Be interested to see how it pays out for him here.
Scrying away a land, so.
Which I'm super happy for, Drown in the Lock,
Oh, of course, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, just the absolute, solid run out there.
You didn't get to cast Emery with it, though, so.
Yeah, it'll take me 3 whole turns to put an Emery into play with this Aether Vial.
That's that's probably not true.
With Aether Vial, he said.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so foretelling a card here. There's 2, I believe, foretell cards in the cube. There's Raven Form and a card whose name I am currently blanking on. Spectral Deluge is what it's called.
Yeah, that's the one that bounces something, right?
Yeah, which is what this one is. We can see now. Yeah, bounces. I think it might be the same thing as Engulf the Shore, actually.
Hey, look, it's Emery.
Just on a foretell card. Yeah, there is Emery. Unfortunately, 2 of the 3 artifacts in your deck are already in play, although I guess the 1 can sacrifice, so.
Right, pretty much ideal.
Yeah, my bauble recursion with Emery is part of the reason why Emery's in the deck.
Right, if it was already in the graveyard, that's just 1 fewer cards to draw.
Yep.
Ooh, this might be a question. You all have been playing Magic longer than I have. When am I supposed to bauble my opponent with Urza's Bauble?
I think Urza's Bauble isn't a card that I've played with much, but I believe you're supposed to do so at the end of your opponent's turn here, because you want it in the graveyard for your turn, you want to draw the card for your turn, but you want to give your opponent the chance to cast a spell in his hand so that it's more likely you get information that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. It would be silly to do it in his upkeep, see a card, and then have him immediately play it.
I looked at it, didn't read it at all. It's like an artifact. It does 2 things. I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I was like, actually, I should probably pay attention.
Yeah, I don't think opponent is supposed to know which card you saw here, but that's okay. We'll.
I'm unsure of that because on Moto it says the card when you bauble somebody, in the chat, not in the chat, but in the little pop-up section.
Yeah.
So I'm unsure. Rules lawyers in the comments, let us know.
So We see you drew your extra card off the bauble. Now Emery's getting the bauble back. So, threatening to generate a lot of value. Surprised to see no play from Daniel on turn 2.
I mean that artifact, the taps and stuns a thing, is 2 mana, I'm pretty sure. So I was kind of shocked that I got to untap with Emery.
Well, it's a flash card, right? So it might be intending to play it here. I don't know if he had. It looks like he has Sink into Stupor, but couldn't cast that. So
yeah, so here on end step does that. And I'm just sitting here with my vial and no creatures, I think.
Did you draw your card for the bauble at the start of his turn?
No, I did not, and I point that out here in a minute, I think.
You fool.
Or I didn't.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
My opponent was very nice. Let me get that missed beneficial trigger there. We don't really play under Comp REL at Cube League.
Not until it's really advantageous for somebody, and then
yeah. And then it's strict as the rules can get. My Tarmogoyf, the information is derivable. Like
Ravenform here. Curious what it's going after. I assume.
Oh, tight! I did have a creature.
This is a neat play.
This isn't how that card actually works.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Don't worry. It says opponent.
Harbinger does say opponent controls, but he's Ravenforming the vial anyways, it looks like.
Yeah. I was so hyped to get to pick up the, get the value, and I didn't. I put a 2/2 into play.
That's okay.
On the bright side, my opponent has not cast a creature spell yet, so I'm pretty hyped. As a control deck, if your opponent hasn't cast a creature spell in 4 turns, you're like, oh great, I'm not dying to combat damage anytime soon.
You didn't get to do anything with your Harbinger, but your opponent also has no creatures, and you have a bunch of power in play, so...
Mystic Sanctuary puts the rapid hybridization back on top that Emery had milled, so nice little synergy there.
Yeah.
Yes. So now even if he does get a creature, although I guess, it may be worse than a 3/3, so 3/3 frog lizard, I believe, but...
I mean, if my opponent kept a hand and hasn't cast a spell by this point, I assume they have some big stuff, so I'm very happy to have this scenario for Bryan drawing a rapid hybridization just as an insurance policy against whatever kind of late game Daniel's trying to build towards.
I will say I am confused why Daniel's not cast Lost Shit by this point. I don't know, because he's keeping this bounce spell up, I think is the idea. I'm checking to see what that card crafts into.
He played Sink into Stupor, so as a land. So yeah, not sure. So looks like we're just gonna Spectral Deluge.
Just bounces everything, right?
Yeah, everything with toughness X or less, where X is the number of islands you control, so.
And then I said, I got a lot of wizards. Hey, you played it. There we go.
Yep, Ixodor's Will, getting a lot of value there. And there's the Jit. So yeah, can transform the needle if he wants to. The backside of the needle lets your creatures explore, though, so...
Doesn't seem too relevant currently.
Not the most exciting thing currently.
I really like what putting rapid hybridization on top last turn did, because Daniel had a creature he could cast, but if he did, it feels kind of... that momentum feels stopped by knowing you have the hybridization. So it almost gets double value getting him to cast a spell into your counter spell instead. And now still having rapid hybridization up for anything that he cast here.
Yeah. Zagana also not really one that he wants to cast on an empty board. Although I guess he's going to here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that at this point, this game is relatively over. I'm waiting for him to spend the mana to equip Lost Jit, and then, here's your 3/3.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you're just priced into doing it, obviously, but really not something you want to do, but in the face of Tower End. Not sure there's much of a choice.
Yeah, we got 3 power in the air. Gonna quickly become more, obviously. So, probably... Daniel would need to find his own flying blocker to get in the way, but still... Emery recurring the bauble just means So much value on Bryan's side.
A revealing Door of Destinies. A lot of cards
Which
here
again, currently.
that revolve around creatures, and a very creature light hand here. So it feels like there's a side of Daniel's deck that we haven't seen in this game, but
Yeah.
did mulligan, so not the most surprising thing. Mouth of
Hey, it's
Ronan,
that
just
Snowland.
just gonna take the beast out.
And we're just cooking.
Yep, so threatens to end the game next turn if Daniel doesn't find something here. Unless the craft can save him, I also am not familiar
No,
enough with
it just explores on the backside, so
Gotcha.
not finding what he needed to stay alive there, and
Yeah, so what we saw does imply a more creature-heavy deck from Daniel that I think Bryan's deck is well positioned against. Let's see, though, what those creatures are, if they can cause some issues in the second game. See only one creature in this land-heavy hand from his side, I believe.
2. That gold spell is Altered Ego. It's a creature.
Oh, okay.
It's a clone. But yes. Although I don't think we can actually cast Silvergill Adept because
Silvergill is not the card in his hand. He has the aquatic Arctic Merfolk, the one that
yes,
has
you're
kicker
right.
bounce.
The kicker bouncer creature. You're right.
Did I draw my card off of Mishra's Bauble there? Oh no, I bobbled in his upkeep. Never mind.
There's the scout. It explores when it comes into play. Just a 1/1.
Yeah, so I think this timing on both the baubles is correct from my understanding of things.
Nice Shivan Reef.
Now, Ancestral Recall, just...
Yeah, exactly. You said you wanted a call. You just had to. It's just some assembly required. That's all.
Yeah. Definitely how I felt. But yeah, I like the double bauble hand because I'm like, if I can draw into Emery, like, I'm gonna be cooking.
Yeah, but it means Emery's going to cost full retail, probably.
Yeah, that's true.
Definitely not worth keeping around the baubles for the discount if you don't already have the Emery, but...
What's the follow up here? Because you've drawn all the cards in the world, but
Play a tap land pass.
play a tap land pass. I mean, not not that.
That's not too
unexpected from your deck.
surprising with Bryan's, like, again, more controlling deck.
Yeah, so there's the Arctic Merfolk. Gets to bounce the scout. Get a +1/+1 counter. Play a Surveil land. We can replay the scout next turn. Explore again. Although part of me wishes we had kept the Surveil land to maybe set that Explore up a little bit better, but
Yeah.
very minor. Having 4 mana this turn might be relevant. Don't know what all the cards are, but if there's another 2-drop, then we could scout and play a 2-drop. Alright, there's the scout.
Yeah, slightly more aggressive draw, but it almost feels like Daniel's deck is maybe better positioned against other creature-heavy decks, having good removal, good interaction, some tricks to save his own creatures.
There's another Foretell card, which I think looked like it was the Spectral Deluge, but might have been the Raven form.
Yeah. I mean, he has both in his deck, which is pretty cool. So, like, you as a player, like, when they only have one Foretell card in the cube, it does feel kind of bad foretelling it. But in this instance, I have no idea.
Right, there have been iterations of the online cube that have definitely had one morph card. I believe it's Din Protector has sometimes been alone in that slot in the cube. But having 4 of them here, 2 in Daniel's deck, means you can't know exactly, even though both the ones you've seen are effectively removal spells, so I'm not sure it changes your play much to think of it as one or the other.
Right. Yeah, the Locker Room Daniel tried to play there just makes it so he could have drawn some cards here. But
no chance.
Instead, just 1 damage.
Yeah, I've been really forcing control decks lately in all my cube drafts because I 3-0'd once with one. So I was like, this is my new life.
I mean,
just tapped 2 mana to cast Vedalken Shackles here, by the way, which is cheating because it is 3 mana.
True.
Hopefully I don't spend that 3 mana because that'll be just cheating right there.
I mean, I have to imagine the plan is to activate Shackles, and if you spent 2 to cast it, maybe you just have the cost backwards.
No, I just definitely thought it was a 2-drop, and it was 2 to activate, which would be busted. I mean, Vedalken Shackles is already busted.
Although what do we have? We have 1, 2, 3 islands, it looks like. So yeah, we could take either creature.
Do you think it's giving away more or less information to foretell the second card?
True.
I mean, it's definitely more, right? Because then you essentially just have 2 face-up cards on the table.
Really good play here from Daniel.
This is a nice Prismari command.
It's one of the reasons why I liked the Emery pick before we had the second Bobble, even just having the ability to get back Shackles if something like this happens feels pretty important.
Yeah, so I imagine the question here is what happens if Vedalken Shackles dies, which the creature would return to Daniel's control, but...
Yeah, I'm sitting next to Bryan confirming that the creature will be summoning sick at least since Bryan had gained control of it.
Right. But yeah, as it leaves play, it is no longer tapped.
That makes sense, right? It doesn't have anything. It's not in play anymore.
Right.
And yeah, so
it's a fair
just
question. The card is worded
but it's just
strangely.
a nice way to reset the state a little bit for a second. Again, just sitting here with 1 extra mana open. If I cast this Ancestral Recall at the end of the turn. Oh, I did.
Oh,
that's unfortunate.
Cheater.
Oof.
Cheater alarm.
Massive cheater. Oh my gosh. Daniel, if you're watching this. Burn me at the stake.
So yeah, gonna hybridize it, turn it into a 3/3.
Yeah, I've never played with the card Vedalken Shackles before. It's not obvious.
We're never gonna be allowed to again at this rate.
Yeah, I know, definitely.
I mean, with Daniel's only spell still in hand, I believe, being that Altered Ego, I don't think he's in a great place either way. Oh, I guess he does still have the Foretell cards.
They could be anything.
And he just rummaged twice.
Right. Oh, it looks like lands because he still has the MDFC flipped in his hand.
Yeah, that is the Sync
that's
to
Sync to
Stupor, I
Stupor.
believe. Yeah.
Okay, that's a nice one to have here, especially with the... I thought maybe we were going to see it here.
No, just going to Deluge, which...
works just as well.
Yeah, Spectral Deluge not parallel like Engulf the Shore is, so...
Yeah, I was definitely shocked by that.
Yeah.
Couple of nice turns back and forth here for each player, but I still gotta imagine this favors Bryan in the long run, unless Daniel has some haymakers that we just haven't seen from him either game, because he has a lot of stuff. Again, the Altered Ego, the Zagana.
Well, yeah, Joey, of course I'm favored. I just cheated and got away with it.
That's true.
The Lost Jeet. Jite, just a bunch of stuff that ask him to have creatures and be engaging in combat and building a board, which is a game state that just favors Bryan.
Just a Saprison scary there. Not very scary, as it were. Wonder what this Foretell card could be.
We've had one Bolshi Tide Turner.
Why not second one?
Well, maybe a third. There's an
True.
alter ego in hand.
Yeah. Yeah, has the sink into stupor, but probably correctly does not want to spend it on that thing.
Right, and nothing good to clone, really, either.
I believe that was Trap Essence drawn, so again, not ideal here, although might help keep the board close to even.
And Bryan showed a fair number of, or at least a couple of counterspells game one. We know, obviously, from the draft he has several, and...
I'm explaining to Daniel how the card works.
That makes more sense, although you did leave the mana tapped.
I was definitely just paying back for... No. I was very confused by that, too. I'm like, how did I spend 5 mana on this?
Did you just you took out a mana loan a few turns ago? Is that what it is? And now you're paying it back?
With interest.
Sure. Yeah, with interest. What a game Magic would be.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I have to assume this is with the Sigil Tracer still on the stack.
Yeah, I think so.
Since if it was
Either way,
play...
I think I'm fine with this in Bryan's position. Like, theoretically, if Bryan has one counterspell in hand, like, I think it's worth just letting his creature get bounced, replaying it next turn.
You don't even have to spend a counterspell on it if it's in play. You can just use its ability to copy the sink into stupor.
Sure.
Yeah, it was definitely while it was on the stack.
Yeah. But Drown in the Lock takes care of it. All right. The mystery has been
revealed. Can either of your
creatures
be used for Sigil Tracer's ability?
They both can. All of Bryan's creatures are wizards.
Well, I more so meant for the activation cost.
No, neither.
No.
Because choosing to cast Drown of the Lock with lands there maybe took away your ability to activate Sigil Tracer in response to that.
Yeah.
No, I think that you're right. Yeah. Like, I definitely could have tapped. I mean, I would have Raven formed his creature, I guess, then. Is that the idea?
I mean, arguably, that's not even good, so
right.
Maybe you wouldn't have done it, but leaving up the activation of Sigil Tracer, I think, would have been worthwhile.
Yeah. Sigil Tracer with the Arcanist type cards feels kind of awkward, because, like, you need them to be untapped to use them.
All right, so taking the opportunity while your mana is tapped to try to play this Altered Ego, which can't be countered.
And I'm realizing that right now. And I say, oh, of course.
Good decision to not respond. But so this is a copy of the Scout, comes into play with 3 counters, and we should get to explore. Yep.
Which would be a non-land. So this is a big, beefy boy.
Is that Merfolk?
It sure is.
Okay, that's a powerful one.
I don't know that we have any other Merfolk in hand currently, but we have this Altered Ego. I'm pretty sure our draw for turn this turn was Hadana's Climb, which we can instantly flip next turn.
Yeah, which is probably bad for me.
Yeah, which I think Bryan thinks this is a 4/4 when it's actually a 5/5, because it
absolutely
brings the base power and toughness over with it, plus the counters.
My opponent is very gracious to me and lets me not do that stupid play, which is very solid.
That's just because he doesn't know that you cheated earlier.
Yeah, if he knew I cheated earlier, he would just let that fly.
I think it's good to have the Mouth of Ranum for this Merfolk, except you obviously got a counter spell for it instead.
Although maybe you wish we had it for this Hadana's Climb.
Yeah, maybe.
Yep, for sure.
But smart of Daniel to play his cards in the order he did, because I think we would much rather have this one than the other one.
Yeah, it was bait for sure. And I definitely gave away a counterspell by tapping mana when he cast an uncounterable spell. So my poor play is, doing some work. Dude, now I wonder how many times I cast Vedalken Shackles for 2 mana. Because I definitely just put it in the 2 mana artifact slot, like in my deck building process.
It looks like he's thinking about... Okay, it looks like he was thinking about putting the counter on the other guy, but that would not have flipped the enchantment here, so...
Yeah, I think the idea is whether or not you want to just get another...
yeah,
you want to just spread counters is the idea, rather than flip it immediately, because you can't activate it immediately, because he doesn't have the mana.
Because Brian's hellbent, so just trying to get more long-term value of getting more turns of +1/+1 counters maybe feels reasonable, except for the fact that the Mouth of Ronim could still kill the smaller Merfolk. I think maybe that changes things a little bit.
No, I mean, it just kills the thing, right?
Mouth of Ronim going to take it out now with the triple block that, I'll be honest, confused me a lot when I was first watching through this. But yeah, I forgot about the Mouth of Ronim.
Oh yeah, just throwing off a triple block there on a non-trampleable creature would have been pretty bad.
It's green, the land's green, maybe you think it gives trample.
Yeah.
And now we're just going to start pecking each other's eyes out with a bird and a little 1/1 scout.
Yeah, except he has a Hedonist Climb.
He does have a Hedonist Climb and now has a Kiora. Definitely has Threshold, I imagine. Yeah, I didn't even have to look at it, just picked up the stack of cards and realized...
that's like 12 cards.
That's enough, yeah. We're going to Tidebinder.
To look at that. Ooh.
Oh, but there's the... there's that Trap Essence, so it's going to counter it, and it's going to put, I believe, 2 counters on... something. Yeah, Kiora can't attack this turn, but still seems way better to just have them there.
And Kiora, not like Seasoned Pyromancer, you don't get to draw the cards. You don't have the cards to discard to it, I guess.
No, you would have gotten to draw the cards, but I guess we forgot.
Oh, you do? It does, Pyro?
No, Kiora
is draw then discard.
Kiora is draw then discard. So with the counter spell,
the top 2 cards of Daniel's deck should be in his graveyard. But
I don't think that matters that much to the continued state of this game, which has already been played pretty sloppily, because Daniel's kicking my ass now.
Yeah, well, there's the Scion. Are we going to activate the land? Looks like yes. Survey says. Yeah. So you're getting in for 11 damage here.
And I'm playing for my only line here, which is to leave back a blocker, and we draw a Wasteland, which is not exactly solid.
Yeah, I was hoping for Engulf the Shores to buy a little more time, probably.
All right, let's hope for the ethics of this game that we don't draw Vedalken Shackles.
Daniel on a mulligan again, unfortunately.
And just a same exact thing as last time, except I don't have an Emery in hand.
Different bauble as well.
Looked like an island there. Yep. So what do we see? I see the Altered Ego again. I see a few lands. Looks like the Spectral Deluge. And the Fear of Sleep Paralysis. So not a very fast hand. Not a fast hand at all.
Yeah.
But again, on the mulligan.
Watch me just snap off a turn 2 Shackles here. Just slamming it.
Maybe lamenting the one non-blue land in your deck.
No, I was iterating to Daniel that because as he got the triple block and then blow up on his Alter Ego, he was like, I forgot about that land. So I was iterating to Daniel, this is the land that does the damage. Wasteland plus Aether Vial there, which felt pretty solid.
Yeah, don't hate it. Knocks off access to a color. Just a tapped land to follow it up.
Though now missing our third land drop, potential trouble, though Aether Vial can alleviate that somewhat.
Have to read Marrow Reesery, Brian. For shame. You have a long way to go.
Yeah, definitely. For merfolking purposes, definitely I've got some growth.
I'm disappointed in you.
Look, dude, I didn't know that Shackles costs 3 mana. You think I know what Marrow Reesery is?
True.
Hey, give Ryan his props. He read it and then he knew that one's got to go.
Yeah, I was like, that thing cannot live. I'm going to be honest. As we're talking right now, I have no idea what that card does.
You're missing out, man.
Honestly, knowing the composition of Daniel's deck after the first 2 games, I maybe would have waited to rapid hybridization, but maybe you want to have the 2 mana this turn for something else. But maybe worth waiting a turn to save 3 damage while you hope to draw into more lands.
I just read what this card does. Yeah, it's a pretty good card. Good thing I rapid hybridization did.
So yeah, I think we're just on the bottomless pool half here, which is going to do nothing. The door is still unlocked, I believe, which...
That's what we're debating here, is whether or not it unlocks the door, because as an enchantment, it loses all of it. It doesn't lose all of its text. Tishana's Tidebinder is a weird card.
My best guess is that because you cast it on that side, it is still unlocked. But if you had tried to unlock the other door with it already in play, it would not be unlocked. That's my gut feel on that.
Ooh, you would be incorrect, because unlocking a door is a sorcery speed interaction that does not use the stack. You unlocking a door is not something your opponent can respond to. If it triggers something, they can respond to that trigger, but the act of unlocking a door is not something that uses the stack at all.
Weird.
Which is bonkers as hell, but I think it's the only way that card could work.
Spend in that it's just a game-based action.
All right.
I'm here pumping this Aether Vial because I think I have Cyclone Summoner in my hand.
Aether Vial above 3 is not... I guess Aether Vial.
I mean, if you have
for
Talrand in your hand.
Talrand, yeah.
We saw Talrand game 1 finish things out. If this was able to put it into play a turn earlier than you would normally cast it in the way this game's played out.
So we have Door of Destinies, but this Halabar Depths is revealing no Merfolk, which...
is not a good look.
Not what you want, yeah.
And Daniel's stuck off of green mana, it looks like, so he doesn't even have the option of casting the Altered Ego in his hand.
Was that the land I wastelanded, or did I wasteland?
No, that was a Shivan Reef. It was a red land, but
right. He's drawn all blue. He's drawn 3 blue-red lands, no green mana.
Yeah, I think the mana bases in this were pretty tight for some people. Like, I think that they struggled a bit for some folks.
One of the conversations that came out of this day, and what I think is a very valid point, is that the non-blue lands are evenly split, but the non-blue spells are not.
A lot of Cynic.
Yeah. So there will likely be more green-producing lands in the next iteration.
Do you think there's going to be a trop?
No.
Or no? Just like
there
another breeding pool or like pathways or stuff?
All right, so we're just rumbling.
Yeah, Drown of the Lock used to kill the creature instead of blocking it with Tidebinder, choosing that. I think that's a clear sign of trying to get a little bit on the aggro.
Yeah, I'm trying to close this game out.
Yeah, there's the sleep paralysis.
There are some positions where Brian's deck would prefer to make the trade, get in little chip damage, leading up the Drown of the Lock to counter a spell, but here just sensing weakness and kind of putting a foot on the gas.
Sensing weakness. We have an Aether Vial on 7 counters in play. I just want to point that out.
Yeah, and you know what it's about to do? It's about to put a 7-drop into play, Prose. So,
Oh, it is on 7. I thought it was still on 6. I was like, Prismari Command next turn would...
Yeah.
Because he has Prismari Command in hand. It would stop him 1 short and kill the Tidebinder, starting to pull it back towards Daniel. But if it's already on 7...
Yeah, I think that he hadn't seen Cyclone Summoner, so didn't know that 7 was where I was stopping.
Sure, but as it takes up, every turn has to feel like the important one.
I love that you say that as if people would expect you to tick an Aether Vial above 7.
Yeah, for sure. It's like there's not a lot of 8 drops in this
Bryan
cube.
took an 8-drop that he was gonna try to cheat into play.
True,
Yeah, totally, with Aether Vial.
I mean, not with Aether Vial, but needs must.
So we're sinking into Stupor, not the Tidebinder, I assume.
I don't like going for this over the Prismari command. It feels like I'd rather go for the Prismari command and then protect it with the Sink into Stupor. But I guess Bryan has enough mana that that line maybe wouldn't work. But
Well, if you're going to Prismari command now,
That's
is
when
the
you should
time to
do it. But yeah.
doesn't seem interested. There's the Scout.
Is it possible this isn't Prismari command and you all are wrong?
It could be Trap Essence. I think he had a Trap
That's what I
Essence
was
in his
thinking.
turn. That is definitely Trap Essence. So yeah,
and
never
that's
mind.
Prismari command underneath it.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
No, that's Altered Ego underneath it.
Pretty confident.
That's definitely not.
Nah, that
What's
ain't
that middle
Prismari command.
one? I know the top one's Trapped Essence. I know the bottom one's Altered Ego. What was the one in
Go back the
between?
tape.
I believe it's the Flesh is weak, actually.
The Flesh is weak. Okay, that's one we hadn't seen from him yet. The Flesh is not the Flesh is weak. The Flesh is weak was in my sideboard.
Is that a creature?
I mean, it certainly is not Prismari command. I know what Prismari commands are, isn't it?
It's definitely not Prismari
Yeah,
command.
It's a legend, also, I'm pretty sure.
It's blue and pink interweaving. It's not the Flesh is weak. It's some other card that's in this cube. My bad.
Well, now I want to know.
It's a Merfolk that costs green mana.
Oh, he's maybe revealing 3 green cards.
3 green cards. Yeah.
The coloring of it would make me assume blue-red, but you're right. That's probably what's happening here.
Yeah.
Look at all these green cards.
Yeah, no green lands. Sad.
Oh, I think it's Hawkball.
Hawkball.
Hawkball of the Surging Soul. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each Merfolk creature you control explores.
Damn,
Whenever
that sounds
he
good.
attacks, you can put a land from your hand onto the battlefield if you don't draw a card.
That would have been good if Daniel had cast that earlier.
If only he had green mana. Well, with this mystery now solved behind us, let's get into the second match, sticking with Bryan. I believe I'm coming to the table now.
Yes, you are, Joey.
So now we're getting into Bryan and my matchup. I will tell you, I mentioned during the draft I was drafting no islands, trying to take advantage of my opponents wanting me to have islands. Bryan took no cards like that, so I've done a do-si-do around a person who does not care.
Absolutely. Ooh, Joey, good question. Did you ever catch me casting Vedalken Shackles for 2 mana during our games?
Well, let's find out.
Yeah, we will have to see, because it's been long enough that I don't remember too many of the specifics.
Another opponent mulliganing here.
Pretty solid for me.
Bryan great at the cut and at the dice rolls, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it interesting how I'm not mulliganing and I win the dice roll and I'm casting Vedalken Shackles for 2 mana? It's all a conspiracy.
There I was commenting on not having islands. I'm probably going to fetch my only one, or one of my only 2 here.
Dang, that's such a good land. I think I probably said exactly that in that moment was, dang, I wish I had that land in my deck.
Considering my Surveil.
Not the Emperor.
Yeah, putting Emperor into the graveyard is a sign that I am short on lands.
Yeah.
I kept my fetch land so I could surveil and try to hit my land drops. I believe I only had 2 lands in my opening hand, did not draw one on turn 1. And here we see, I believe it's Reef Shaman, one of my 2 color-fixing 1-drops. I was talking to some other players who were less high on them. I think the 1-drops that are color-fixing are among the better 1-drops, but...
Here I cast an Impede Momentum.
The primary reason they're in the cube is not for color fixing, but they do a pretty good job of that.
Right. As I mentioned during the draft, like when I was talking about Cozy's Trickster, sometimes you just want the 1-mana Merfolk to be a 1-mana Merfolk to get all your other synergies. Emperor's in my graveyard. I want to be casting Merfolk that are cheap enough that I have the 1 to pay. But also, I'm playing, as everyone is, base blue, but I'm splashing 3 other colors, so having both the color-fixing ones in my deck feels pretty important.
Joey, I couldn't have possibly guessed at the start of that draft that you were going to draft 4-color.
I actually thought it was going to be the standard. Like, there's so few multi-color cards, and they are really powerful. I thought everyone would be willing to, like, oh, I'll splash this 1 green card, I'll splash this 1 red card, I'll splash these 2 white cards. I actually thought it would be more common than it ended up being, so that was my misread on the cube, and it's how I was the one that ended up with both of the 1-drop land type changers.
Yeah, definitely possible that is kind of an evolution over time. Although, again, the reason that I included those cards in the cube was more for enabling your island walk creatures, but it is a nice side effect.
I don't like this play. This is a bad play.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit after the match, but I am thrilled here because my 1-drop, yes, it's locked down and it's going to be locked down again, but I mulliganed this game, but Bryan used this card that eventually will no longer have an effect. Eventually my creature will be untapped, and he's about to use it again, so that's essentially -2 cards for Bryan, even though it's a big tempo upswing. But as we've seen and talked about during the draft, Bryan is not a tempo deck.
Nope.
He's getting in for 1 point of damage here, but...
Does that card... Okay, so it does scry at least, so maybe that was the goal, although at that point maybe drawing
Pretty
your next
slow.
card was better than scrying, so...
Yeah. I think that I had the... whatever that island is that does that.
Mystic Sanctuary.
And I was like, I just don't have any good plays right now, I felt like.
Ooh, Psionic Blast.
I would just kill my guy.
Yeah,
Kill
4
your guy
damage.
and deal me 2 damage. And here, I'm actually trying to bait you. I, want to resolve a spell on my turn, and I want you to defend that guy, because I don't think that guy's worth killing. As I was just implying, that guy isn't very threatening to me, but I thought there was a chance you would defend it. And you didn't, so I'm just passing the turn back here. I think we're both assuming we have some instant speed effects, and just continuing to slowly develop our mana bases. Wasteland, rough for me to see. I mentioned that I'm splashing all the colors, so...
You were so nice of me to separate your basics from your non-basics after I played Wasteland.
Yeah, I was about to say, hard to imagine that this Wasteland stays in play, because it's hard to imagine you're getting a better target than Secluded Courtyard.
Yeah. Well, you see there, I reached for my Boseiju because I assumed he was going to destroy my Boseiju to take away my green mana. Yes, the Courtyard could give me green mana for creature spells, but Boseiju, I have plenty of black and blue, obviously, off of the dual land I had, plus 1 of each basic. Losing Boseiju, I think, would have been worse for me, though ultimately the colors don't matter that much since my Reef Shaman is finally about to untap.
Which you are nicely letting me know.
I couldn't have said it. I did not know that was going to happen. I couldn't have said it at a better time.
Let him cook,
right
man.
Now, I'm like, do I drown in the lock your Reef Shaman? 3 for 1-ing off of a 1-drop.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Reef Shaman has untapped. It is turn 6.
Joey's about to turn a land into another land. It's going to be crazy.
I mean, I mentioned that I'm splashing 3 other colors. I only have 3 colors in play right now, so one of my colors is absent. So there's a chance I was waiting for the Reef Shaman to start doing some stuff, but kind of don't feel the need to be the first one to pull the trigger, though maybe that's wrong, seeing the overall control quality of your deck. Maybe I should pull that first trigger, especially since 2 of your counterspells require wizards to be in play, including, I believe, this one.
Yeah, that's the tap wizard.
Although, again, every creature in the deck is a wizard, so that's hardly a cost. But
sure, but maybe it's a reason why last turn, before there were any wizards in play, I should have gone for something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so turning this swamp, I believe, into something.
A plains, I think.
Probably. That is the color I'm missing here.
It has to be a plains or a mountain, and if the deck is white, then
4-color non-red.
Okay. So Broker's Charm.
Draw 2 cards.
I need to tap the swamp that I turned into a plains.
Yeah.
That's okay, don't worry. You'll probably remember.
Well, probably also doesn't matter. Probably just untapping afterwards anyway.
Yeah, this was on the end of Bryan's turn, so...
Yeah, Broker's Charm, feeling like it lets me kind of get further ahead in the like just trading resources and just try to have the higher number of cards, because it feels like we're setting up to come down to a state where we both play our important things, those important things get killed or countered, and then we're left with just the refuse. So it might come down to whoever has the more refuse.
I don't know how Joey just like had more cards than me. Like you just had so many more cards than me during this game. I feel like
you'll notice I think one fewer land in play, and again, you using the tap thing twice made up for the mulligan plus one more, and I was on the draw as well, so
that makes sense. So yeah, definitely should have just drew down further into my deck.
Plus, you drew all your extra cards in the last match, so
and you'll notice no Bobble Emery loops here currently.
All right, well, there's Talrand.
Talrand's a scary one. I imagine I would fight over this quick if I can.
Yeah, I think the reason I'm doing this is I have a 2-drop and a 1-drop spell is probably what I'm thinking here. I don't know what my hand is currently.
We know of a 4-mana counterspell in your hand, so maybe I'm willing to go to my turn to maybe try to kill it on my turn, having my full suite of mana to fight through any interaction you might have. Because I believe just based on the way I've played this game, I assume I have one of my mini removal spells in hand, because you have a large majority of counter magic. I have mostly removal. So, in terms of interactive spells.
Yeah, I was really trying to draft only removal spells this time around to see if that was the way to go, and I didn't draft enough.
This can be nameless inversion, yeah.
+3, -3. We'll deal with a 2/2.
Nameless inversion is one I really like in this.
Now spending my 3rd spell targeting this guy.
Yeah, but this one kills it and makes a Drake.
Kills it, makes a Drake. Yeah, it wasn't really a better target for it. You want to cast your spell.
Not unlike on those earlier turns, I've now proven that I have white spells in my deck.
Yeah.
I really like Nameless Inversion, I was saying, because it removing creature types feels like it could be really important against the lords. So, like, if you have a 4/4, but it's pumped up by some of the Merfolk lords, it getting -3 and getting rid of creature types feels like it can be a surprise extra reach that card has to take down bigger creatures.
Just for clarity, we used our shaman to turn that swamp into a plains again, is how we cast the Vedalken Wave Knight here.
Yeah, Vedalken Wave Knight. Like, obviously these are Merfolk, so I know it's not Vedalken Wave Knight, but as someone who's played Magic through multiple Ravnica blocks and other Vedalken-based sets, every time I cast that spell, it felt like a tongue twister.
I'm finding out in real time that Joey's other 1-drop that fixes lands is a wizard. So unfortunate for me.
Are wizards.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I definitely was like so solid that I was cutting you off of recasting that spell though when I cast it.
Oh, I see. I mean, 4 mana is still tough. Like I mentioned, one of the reasons I have more cards is because I have fewer lands in play. But having fewer lands in play means recasting that 4-drop is, a cost. Oh, this is such an awkward position, because my other card in hand is Silvergill Adept, but Voldaren Wave Knight is my only other Merfolk. And so I want the Wave Knight in play before Silvergill Adept comes into play, so I draw the card and trigger the Knight. But I can't do that because I don't have another Merfolk to reveal who the Silvergill Adept, so I have to cast the Silvergill Adept first. It's a mess. And I think here you see me realize that for a second time. Like, I was clearly thinking about it, and then... Oh no, do I have another Merfolk?
Maybe you're just completely wrong.
No, you're good.
Fool.
You're the Thieving Skydive.
Okay. There was definitely an earlier turn on this game. I've been on 6 mana for a long time. There's an earlier turn this game where that was true. Probably last turn when I did cast the Wave Knight.
Silvergill Adept 2 we had to read, huh, Brian?
Again, 0. Merfolk are not a good creature type. I just don't know any of them.
All right.
And you can rest assured Thieving Skydiver is the only Merfolk in my hand, because I wouldn't reveal it. That's one that I really wouldn't want to reveal if I didn't have to. Although
I don't think we've seen any of Brian's artifacts, but still, you just keep
I'm
that
currently
one close
sitting
to
with
the
2 of them
chest.
in my hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know about his 4-mana counterspell that requires tapping wizards. He knows about my thieving skydivers. Like, the information exchange in this game is a little awkward. There, I just took 7 from the... Is it a crab?
It's a giant wizard.
It's a giant. I don't know why I thought it was a crab.
It's the Cyclone Summoner. He's a big wizard.
Yeah, using Mouth of Ronan to take down the Wave Knight, probably smartly. That is a card that gets out of hand very quickly. Bite Malice to take down the 7/7.
Yeah, I already was in my hand. That's why I was immediately just said okay to taking 7, feeling like this position where I have a little bit of mana still up. Oh,
Do you?
Maybe I have a play. I mean, either way, I feel like I'm obviously slightly ahead on this board, and we're both running low-ish on cards.
Probably at least considering just playing the Skydiver. I mean, again, you haven't seen any targets for it, and you just have mana left over this turn, but decide not to.
I think I just drew the Shackles, which is rather unfortunate considering the Thieving Skydiver of it all. Though I'm thinking Joey's got to kick this for only 2, like such a cheap way to get a Vedalken Shackles.
True.
Little do I know, Joey almost has to tap out to steal this Shackles.
Surely I wouldn't let you get away with that. Surely.
Yeah.
So what are you looking at? I see a Tidebinder.
Just a cast a Tidebinder. I was waiting for there to be something, but there was nothing. He just didn't make any triggers at any point. I was like maybe saving it for the Thieving Skydiver, but I just kind of wanted to get in and kill him.
Yeah, I mean, he's at 7, so...
But now that I've drawn white mana, I will almost certainly just trade my 2/2 for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, the 2/2 can unfortunately block the Tidebinder. Well, I guess it could block the Tidebinder regardless. It can block the Tidebinder in a reasonably productive way. Something coming here. It's like Smell Fear.
Yeah. Here's where I'm happy that Besagier's still in play.
Yeah.
I obviously have the Land Fixer creature, but not having to tap it for this is nice when my life total, as we've said, is pretty low.
So going to hybridize the Augur of Bolus.
Yeah. I pause here just because I was thinking through a small rules interaction where one of the targets is still in place, so does the proliferate resolve, and came to the conclusion, no, it doesn't resolve, because...
that's not actually true for this card.
The proliferate is supposed to resolve?
The proliferate is supposed to resolve.
Unlucky for me.
Because it still has your creature that it's targeting, so it still has a legal target.
Sure, I thought that it's
because
similar
the fight
to...
fizzles.
I'll admit that I looked it up, but this card specifically does have a ruling that if one of its targets is gone, the spell still resolves.
Interesting.
The fight just obviously doesn't happen.
I thought that swap cards fizzled, and I thought maybe swap was similar to...
Here we go, 2 mana Shackles.
No!
Oh my god, he did it again.
Oh my god, he's done it. Spend 2 mana to activate. Let's see if we spend this 4 mana here.
You stack that mana such that I can't tell how many lands are tapped?
Oh, absolutely, totally. Just nailing it, getting away with it.
Absolutely savage, yeah. Alright, well there's the farm to market. Gonna take down...
Spoiler alerts, I do not remember that this farm to market is in my graveyard. At no point do I even consider... like,
Marketing.
Yeah, Brian's maybe thinking about it at some point. I at no point even consider marketing.
You're like,
And I am just realizing that right now.
It's been so long since Aftermath cards were played in basically anything.
It's so weird because the version of that in my head, like it's
Looks
similar
correct.
to Adventure, and Adventure goes in its own zone.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, but also shouldn't the Aftermath card be rotated 90 degrees?
Yeah, they are. Normally it would be one vertical and one sideways, but even still, I mean,
Either way, that is not affecting
yeah.
the fact that I just completely
Right.
out of hand, out of mind. I'm not thinking about it.
That is a mechanic that fully disappeared, I feel, once those cards rotated out of standard. I mean, there's not really any
There have been
Aftermath
other
cards.
versions of it, though. Like
Yeah.
Jumpstart is another version of it. There are a few other ones.
Don't worry, Joey. I did leave 4 mana up for the 4 mana counterspell that I have in my hand, and then not counter a spell I definitely should have countered. That doesn't exactly make up for the Shackles, but
Sure. I think there's at some point. I think even at that point, though, like I wanted to try to bait stuff out. I don't remember what was in my hand, but I remember Thassa being like a test spell or one that I thought you would counter, allowing me to resolve something else.
this attack is bad.
Yeah, maybe
I'm
a little
realizing I
frustrated.
definitely should have countered Thassa in this moment, and am frustrated.
Yeah, I spent 4 mana that I had left over. This is the reason why I led with Thassa instead of the spell that I cared about more, because obviously want to bait out the counter spell, but also if Thassa resolves and I just have 4 mana up, I can spend it on Brian's turn to tap his creature.
Yeah, so the one thing with Psychic Trance is that it does give the creatures the activated ability, so the Silvergill Adept wouldn't have been able to, but the Tidebinder definitely could have.
Oh, interesting. I had not considered that card doesn't work with summoning sick creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just trying to think through if maybe like we couldn't actually do that here, but the Tidebinder was definitely not summoning sick. But
This creature
here
rocks.
is Shiva. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in one of the packs in the draft where you had a bunch of other good options, but for your deck, I also would have really liked this card. We didn't end up talking about it where it came up, but yeah,
this
am a big
card's a
fan of this
house.
card. There is a point during this where I get a little confused about something, I believe.
Yeah, so what's happened here is that we've used Thassa at the end of our turn to blink this.
Yes, that's
Shiva.
what happened.
So there should be a second. Oh, well, he's on tap now, so there's only one left. Yeah. So
yeah, it went up to 2 on my end step and then immediately back down to 1.
Yeah, so pretty nice.
I debated just untapping Shackles at the start of my turn too. I was like, but yeah,
it just doesn't want to play anymore. And I mean, you're stunning 2 things with Shiva a turn.
Right. If he doesn't play anything there, I get to attack him for at least 4, and then I get to draw an extra card when the Shiva goes away the following turn.
And surely you have 1 more blue pip in your hand to activate that Thassa as well. So
maybe. I'm not confident how much something would have resolved, because Brian's incentivized not to play a creature there because of the summon Shiva, so there's a decent chance that he would just leave.
Just the Psychic Trance or anything, yeah.
And the Shiva is especially nice with Thassa in that last game, just because it gives you control over, like, maybe I do want to go to the 3rd stage of the saga just to draw the card, but in that game,
I don't know. I mean, to be able to stun 2 creatures a turn plus attack with a 4/5, I think that's a pretty fine place to be. Yeah.
I'm not sure what the number of cards you would have to draw to let that go is, but
I mean, I imagine if that game goes on and Bryan does build a bigger board, maybe it becomes a consideration. But as long as you can essentially keep all of his creatures tapped forever, I think.
Yeah, me build a bigger board is not exactly something my opponents have to be worried about, though.
Right. I just mean generally that. All right, our Argo Bolus is missing, so.
Which is pretty rough for this deck.
This is karma for the Vedalken Shackles, I think.
I don't think so. I think the Vedalken Shackles is like pretty unconscionable. Daniel's gonna watch this video and kill me the next time you play me in person.
Well, to be fair, you have now cast Vedalken Shackles for 2 twice and lost both of those games, so maybe it's not actually that good.
Cheaters never win. Is that what you're saying?
Cheating,
Prose? Is that
cheating doesn't pay, kids.
This auger didn't reveal anything, correct?
It did
No,
not.
we
No,
talked about how it
missed.
fizzled earlier, and we were all sad because I'm the main character.
Well, I wanted to point out that last game we both knew a 1 card in each other's hands, and as a result, neither of us ever cast that 1 card that the other person knew about.
True, that is true. Yeah. Oh no, sigil. Are there any merfolk that counter a spell on ETB?
I don't think anything on 2 here would have done anything. Or I guess Hex Catcher
The
could
Vedalken
have come into
Hexcatcher,
play,
yeah.
sacked the other Merfolk to counter it. Thriving Isle. I believe this one name's green, even though I'm missing white, because I have a double green spell.
I believe
but maybe
you.
I named white.
And I have to appreciate Brian's effort to write it on a piece of paper that we definitely cannot read. So
definitely not even a little bit. I was writing it so that Joey could keep track of it, not for the camera.
I need to be clear to both of you. That was sitting right in front of me. I looked at it several times, and I couldn't tell that Bryan wrote the word green. I know he wrote the word green, so that's how I know that this is one on green. I have 1 double green spell in my deck, Prime Speaker Zagana, and even though I'm still mana away from casting it, and I don't have a good creature in play to have Prime Speaker Zagana cast, like, that is the one that I want to make sure that I have, because I don't have the most green sources, so establishing the second one here is worthwhile. Maybe I have a white land in hand, or just don't have any of my white spells yet, since I don't have very many.
Getting in there. One
damage.
At a time, baby.
This is why you kept it tapped for so long the other game. Make sure it couldn't do that.
Also worth noting that we kept Vile on 2 this time. Which
and I should have known what that meant, and I just didn't. And I lament it pretty hard later when I realized what I should have known that it meant.
Well, I don't think you had seen the Harbinger yet, right? So you have no way to really know.
To be fair, Joey saw my deck before we played, because I asked him some questions, because I said, Joey, we're not playing for a while. Answer some questions. And then we played in the second round. I didn't think I was going to win, is why.
That's on the day Bryan told me he didn't think I was going to win.
That is true, yeah.
Right, but just, I don't know, leaving it on 2 and then not activating it on my end of turn is a lot of information, and I should have been able to figure it out, I feel.
I mean, there's always the chance that it's just a forgotten uptick as well, but
that's for sure.
I guess in the instance where you forget, you probably lament forgetting it and hope your opponent tells you to just uptick it. He paid 3 mana for Shackles.
Let's go, everybody applaud.
There was no conversation at the table about this spell costing
0. I realized
Bryan has just decided to start playing by the rules at this point.
No, I looked at that card in my hand. I was thumbing through and I saw that it cost 3 mana, and I felt so embarrassed.
I truthfully didn't even notice watching this through before this that even happened. So
see, pros like me could easily make this same mistake of not reading what the card does.
Well, I was also thinking last game when I was talking about having a good 4 mana play follow up to Thassa, that maybe you had tricked me into thinking it cost 2, and my good follow up play was Skydivers steal it for 2.
Yeah. Dude. Dude, I swear to Christ, I was so worried about skydiving.
If you noticed that had happened, you should have just skydived for 2 and just insisted that it actually works.
Oh yeah, it works because you cast it for 2 last game.
All right, so here's Shiva again. We're not close to being able to Shackles it. Our mana creature is now tapped. Oh, I guess actually that's not true. We're actually only 1 island short, although Reef Shaman, I imagine, is going to hedge against that here.
Yes, I'm turning one of his lands into a mountain, I believe. The thing that I got wrong here, though, is I definitely thought Shackles was CMC, not power. I have not played enough with her against the card in any recent years, and got that wrong. And so it being 1 away from being able to steal Shiva, I definitely thought it was 2 away. Now 3 away since I'm changing his land type. So that's the mind state I'm in, just to inform everyone of all potential tragedies to unfold as a result.
I feel like you didn't have to say that. I mean, you made the right play. You could have just let it go, you know?
Yeah, Joey, don't hurt yourself here for no reason.
No, I think pre-explaining that's going to be important.
I can't imagine why.
It's 2 mana.
Cast Vedalken Shackles.
Activate
No,
Vedalken Shackles.
activate Vedalken Shackles.
Well, that thing
I
has
need to be
0
able to
power,
turn something
so.
into an island next turn to be able to steal this Shiva.
Well, you can't turn something into an island with the Reef Shaman and use the Reef Shaman.
What?
So, if you turn something into an island, that means he's untapped with it, which means that the Shackles didn't untap.
Oh, sure.
No,
Like-
Joey, don't worry. I realized this line here later. Oh, here we
All
go.
right,
The
so there's
Master
the
of the
Harbinger.
Waves. Or yeah, Harbinger.
Yep. This is me lamenting that I definitely had all the information. I feel like I failed the magic puzzle.
Joey says, Bryan, you know that I can just recast this, right? And I said, sure, do it.
Oh, that is not a legal way to cast that spell.
What do you mean?
Well, that Mystic Sanctuary is a mountain currently, right?
That is not. That is last turn.
No.
It doesn't make it a mountain forever. That would be insane.
Oh, it's Joey's turn. Yeah. Sorry.
Yes.
Though the creature is tapped, but he took control of it on Bryan's turn. I believe.
Yeah. No,
It's
It's until
I'm
end
wrong.
of turn, right?
Yeah, I'm wrong.
It is until end of turn. The
It's
question
not
is,
while it's tapped.
yeah, if you had taken the creature on my turn, there would be a question of what had I changed, but you took it on your turn.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm smushing the turns together in my head.
No. We're good, Prose. I already cheated twice in this cube, okay? Don't try to force it into a 3 thing here. Jeez.
Good point.
Before we get to that part in the video, of course.
Right.
Yeah. Before, don't worry. It'll show up.
So again, I've drawn both my mana Fitzers. Don't really need them based on the diversity of my mana, but always happy to have another 1/1 Merfolk.
We actually can't cast Zagana currently, right? So.
No, I have the kitchen, I believe is the green-blue.
Oh, it is. Yeah. I thought that
Yeah,
was
letting
the black
Joey
one.
untap with this kitchen and he keeps drawing lands really had me upset because I'm just stuck on 4 mana as a control deck.
Yeah, I have both the investigate rooms. So like I really just want to try to do something to stabilize this board state so that I can start drawing 2 cards a turn because I have exactly the 7 mana required to activate. And oh, here I've separated out my blue-black sources, my single color sources, and my 2 green sources. It turns off my white source very reasonably since I only have 1 of those.
Although you could just turn it back on if you really wanted to.
Yep.
But
Yep. Oh no, I figured that out later. Don't worry.
I mean,
Ahead of yourself, Prose.
I think you still do it, right? You know, make them use the resource, but what are you gonna do? You're gonna. I guess your 0-3 could have blocked this 1/1 if you really wanted it to, attacking into a.
I activate my Aether Vial in desperation.
I remember wanting you to do something with the vial here. I cannot recall why. I don't, because like spinning a removal spell on a thing you put into play versus your things in play, like how much better is that? I cannot recall why I was comfortable with you putting something into play there, but I definitely did not just forget about the vial, I promise.
No, yeah, you're good. Like, I didn't have anything. I mean, I guess it's like screw versus flood, right? Like, whatever's in my hand has to be something.
Right, the rooms threaten to maybe flip that idea a little bit as the game goes on, but
Yeah, I'm really dying for a 5th land here. I have a Void Rend and not the right mana to cast it.
Down to 10, so not too far off from ending this game.
I believe that my white source has again become a mountain here.
A swamp, but yeah.
A swamp?
Or no, it probably is a mountain. Yeah.
I mean, a swamp is also probably equally ineffective.
Looking at the
because I have
3
so
black lands.
Yeah, I have 3 no pain black lands and 1 pain black land.
And here's you just turning it back into the color that you want
Yep.
which I'm now realizing, oh, whoops, that was a waste.
But I mean, you're attacking with so much that creature has to get into combat at some point.
Oh, hey, look, it's this 4-drop.
Here's the knight again.
There's the Merfolk Assassin, which isn't super relevant as a creature, but is as a card that is going to turn Thassa into a creature.
Which I did not notice. Yeah, in my mind, I don't know what was supposed to, like, because in Arena, think about it, like, Thassa jumps over here to the side and is like...
Right. If I had set it more like in that light green zone, I would understand, like, it feeling out of the way.
Oh, no. Like, I just, like, it's sat in the same spot the whole game. I was like, that's an enchantment.
Oh,
this it was over here in the Shackles zone.
This is the mana cost versus
yeah. Joey's like, this is a 4-drop.
Would have loved to see this done in the upkeep if you were going to do it.
Oh yeah.
Get to juice all your guys.
Oh yeah, shoot. That probably
I didn't think about it either.
Yeah.
Here I am tapping something that definitely matters and not the 6/5.
This is the moment where I'm like, none of us guys have island block. That's so weird.
I don't know. I mean, I guess if you live under the assumption that maybe he has to block with one of his little apes, but...
Joey has just now moved this enchantment to block my creature, and I'm like, well, Joey, that's an enchantment.
Yeah, after the knight left, I was like, ooh, there is a bit of a gap there. But you took my knight.
No, for sure. Thassa was living in her own world over here as an enchantment. And then when you gained 5 devotion, that card didn't move an inch until you blocked with it. And that is entirely my fault. I'm not tilted in the slightest. Ignore the fact that I snap concede here in a second.
In my head, I'm still way behind. And then
when I was watching this match earlier, I sent them a message and I said, I've just seen the most confusing concession of my entire life, because I was shocked by. I mean, I could see the tilt coming out there, obviously.
But, absolutely.
And I mean,
no, I'm winning that game currently.
Yeah.
I was like, also the creature I blocked, to be clear, was a 2-mana 2/2 with no effect.
Yeah, for sure. No, don't get me wrong. Like, it was literally like, this card doesn't do anything. It doesn't matter. But I was like, I just got blown out. Absolutely. I'm done playing Magic.
A grizzly bear died.
Yeah, a grizzly bear died.
You were way ahead and lost a grizzly bear.
Absolutely, Joey. And I didn't even cheat once in that game, okay?
True. You paid the appropriate amount of mana for your Vedalken Shackles and you still lost. So maybe it's just casting Vedalken Shackles which makes you lose.
Yeah, who would have guessed the Vedalken Shackles, the like 3rd best card in the cube, was the problem with my gameplay there.
Yeah.
So going forward, we're going to stick with me on the camera, but Bryan, real quick first, how did your 3rd round go? How'd your record end up at the end?
I ended up 1-2ing. I played against Scott. Scott's deck is very good. He was doing like a wizards thing, which is pretty bad. Makes my like one-sided sweeper, not a one-sided sweeper. And he also had the card Cryptic Command, and the card Cryptic Command feels very good in this cube. It's a 2-for-1, which this cube has some 2-for-1s, but doesn't have like an insane amount. So Cryptic counterbounce feels pretty solid, and also tap all your guys. So yeah, he Cryptic did something, and I was like, wow, that's a really good card.
So it sounds a little bit like against the 2 more mid-rangey controlling, almost like mirror matches in me and Scott, even though we were controlling in different ways. You struggled, but against Daniel's more aggressive deck, we saw your deck got to do exactly what it wanted. So maybe a bit of poor matchups there, because I think your deck was really good against any of the more like creature-based decks.
Yeah, for sure. And I I think, like I said this multiple times during the day while we were doing this, I think that this deck lacked like card draw and filtering. Like if I had like a top or like Preordain or like a Ponder or something, I think that this deck would have felt a little bit better. Basically, also the card Impede Momentum feels like not a card for that kind of deck, obviously. There are stun counters matter decks in this format, and mine wasn't one of them.
We can take a quick look at Joey's entire deck here. I feel like we've seen most of this at this point, but
Yeah, I mean, we just saw two very extended games. The only extra thing I really want to mention is we didn't see really any of my lords, Master of the Pearl Trident, the Mimic, or I guess the Emperor isn't a lord, but more of my effect that rewards Merfolk. The Knight was the one we saw both of those games, and just to show that while I don't consider myself an aggressive creature deck, I definitely still have some of those like build up my bigger board stuff that just didn't come up, or I surveilled away and chose not to make the focus of the game against Bryan.
yeah, and so Joey's opponent here for the 3-0 is going to be Matt. We can take a quick look at what he is working with here. I believe he was not far from Bryan in the draft. I don't remember exactly
So
where.
he was directly to Bryan's left, and then
Okay.
I was directly to the left of that. So every
Gotcha.
card we saw Bryan pass hit Matt first, and then me.
Yeah.
So I ended
Yeah.
up with that Threads of Disloyalty that I was talking about really liking at one point during the draft. Matt, you'll see here, ended up with a lot of the cards we saw just go past Bryan.
Right, that Lord of Atlantis sticks out. Master of Waves I don't think we saw, but that's a nice pickup there.
I don't think we saw this Cryptic Coat either, because it's a card I would have really liked in Bryan's deck. I don't think we ever saw it go by.
No, we super did.
We did? Okay.
Yeah, we did. I didn't take it. I definitely regretted that post draft, but you know.
Okay. I mean, maybe it was under a card because plenty of things in your deck that I would have liked over it, but Cryptic Coat, very good here, would have been very good truly in any three of our decks. I think that card's just very good.
Yeah, I think that card's just really good in this cube, and yeah, this definitely feels like the most aggressive of the 4 decks we've seen. A little bit of removal and a spell snare thrown in, but overall, just wants to curve out on its creatures and make them big.
Turn
hopefully.
sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's see if that slightly more straightforward approach ends up working out for Matt as we get into our 3-0 match.
So that leaves us with the first ever 3-0 in the Merfolk Cube. Congratulations to Matt for taking this draft down today. We are starting to wind towards the end of this Cubevitational qualifying season with our event coming up in June. So let's take a quick glance at the standings with 2 draft days remaining. Things are tightening up at the top of the standings with Matt, Scott, Pellman, and Joey holding down the top finishes spots, all within striking distance of the number 1 seed. Spurlock, Prose, Daniel, and JT are holding on to the at-large spots currently, but Bryan and Bats are not too far behind. There's not a lot of draft days left, so be sure to check back in next time to see how the Cubevitational invites are going to shake out. As always, you can find links to our socials and the cube from today in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to make it easier for you to come back next time.